Hi there everybody, my name is Kate and welcome to my channel, Trinergy Awakens Naturally. Let's talk about our spiritual go bag. And if you don't know what a go bag is, that's the oh shit, gotta go bag. It's in a lot of cops and robbers kind of films, and definitely with the bunker mentality, we have people who have a bag of essentials and their wilderness living, freeze-dried food, that kind of thing, that in the case of world events or the end of the world or war or whatever, they've got their go bag. I need to escape in a hurry and go survive on my own, or whatever. So let's talk about what our spiritual go bag is and what it isn't. We all have in our bodies, logged into our DNA at a cellular level, our DNA, our chromosomes, our brain, our programming, everything that we have ever done is in our mind, and until we clear it, if it's highly negative, especially until we clear it, or when we clear it, it's going to be in our patterning, it's going to be in our mind, it's going to be in our energy, and it's going to be a part of our DNA structuring. It's going to be a part of what we are, and that's what a lot of us, we think our spiritual go bag, our reaction bag is full of that stuff, and very rarely is there anything worth keeping for survival skills. And I mean, for living everyday life today seems like survival, doesn't it? Because we've got a lot of people that are popping off, a lot of weird things are happening, and a lot of things are breaking apart, and it does seem like it's the end of the world. It's the end of the old world. It is the end of the old paradigm. It's the end of the age of Pisces, and we're into the new earth and the age of Aquarius. However, our spiritual go bag really needs to be less about our codependency bag, our toxic bag, our narcissistic bag, our terrible relationships, our abuse, our PTSD, all of those things. Now, the secret here is that we can't just, usually, I've not seen anybody who can do this yet, they can just take that bag and go, yeah, let me just tie up all those nasty, ugly habits or memories or programming or behaviors or anything ever done to me. Let me just take all of that conveniently and put it by the side of the road and say, thank you very much, and on I go. I've never seen that work. Believe me, if it did, we'd all be running around way happier and way healed. Now, however, it doesn't mean that there isn't a way to do it. It just means that we can't just deny that anything and everything that's ever happened to us, good, bad, or in between, anything we've ever thought, anything we've ever said or done, or that was said or done to us, or that we've been exposed to, involved in, etc., that's not in us somewhere. It is, of course, our computer, or excuse me, our mind is one big giant computer, and it's the go-between in between our experience of heaven and earth. It is how we process our energy. It is the CPU, if you will. It's the whole memory system of how we operate in our 3D world. And so our 3D world, if we're real reactionary, that means our go bag is we're snatching that get ready for war stuff. We're ready to hurt other people that have hurt us, or hurt other people that act like people that have hurt us, or we're ready to crawl into that victim mentality. We usually kind of respond in just a couple of ways. We're either going to turn into the victim, or we're going to be the victimizer. It's pretty much the way that operates. And though we can flip-flop and back and forth, with power control struggles all day long with people, we generally fall into one of those categories or the other. Especially if we come from a history of being abused, we are typically lined up to be abused. If we come from a situation where we were an abuser early on, we were probably suffering abuse. However, if we were abusing early on in childhood, we oftentimes will turn around and be doing that as well, at whatever level that we're doing that. So the way that we can really get our spiritual go bag and dump that codependency, narcissistic, yucky, icky, toxic no bag, the way that we can really mitigate those effects of that and get rid of it and the dullness and the heaviness of that is to get our spiritual go bag intact instead. And the way that we do that, one of the ways that is the most helpful, is to get very honest about what we are, who we are, where we've been, what we've done, what we've said, things that were said and done to us. It means getting raw and real about the deal of what has my whole life been about, in terms of what are the significant hallmark events that have happened to me, and what are the hallmark events that I perpetrated or that I put upon someone else? What are those defining moments, those crystallizing moments, the moments that we don't want to remember, but we really need to remember? Now, also, we're going to have in our spiritual go bag, more than that. We're going to transcend that, but we have to start with what are those things that are really the no bag so that I can let go of the no bag in a big old hurry. That's what helps us grow our spiritual go bag, is being able to look at those things where I was abused, I was in a traumatic situation, or I was an abuser, I caused trauma, I did something, I was exposed to, a very traumatic event, or whatever. I was born into a family that was highly abusive. Whatever those things are that are true about us, the dirtiest, what we consider to be the dirtiest, most awful thing about us, the more clean we can get. I mean squeaky clean, as in I can say this, announce this to the world, even though I may not want to. I can release to the world, if I needed to, the deepest, darkest secret that I ever have about myself or anything that was done to me. We're not a culture that really wants to talk about that kind of thing unless we're saying it about somebody else and we're exposing them. We rarely want to expose our dark side because people can be quite awful. They can use that stuff they think against us, and there's where our power is in being able to let go of that no bag, is growing the go bag of our spirituality by saying, okay, so yes, I did do that. I chose this. I chose that. You're absolutely right. There's a great deal of power in this, and there's a whole lot of deflating of that whole subject of somebody trying to emotionally blackmail us or bully us by saying, I know secrets about you. Well, of course you do. If I've been in a relationship and I've been honest with you, of course you do. You've seen me and you know things. And when we get to the point that there is nothing that anybody can hold over our head emotionally or spiritually or anything else, but emotionally is really the most critical, because all that other stuff, it just falls into line with exactly where it belongs, which is behind that, somewhere low on the list of priorities to be concerned about, like in that bag, that we get honest with that and we can say, yes, in fact, I did do that. That is what happened. You are absolutely correct about that. And I will not be abused about that. I will not take any abuse about that, nor will I take anything except accountability for that. And if it's not the person that I have done this to, I'm certainly not going to sit down and talk to somebody else who wants to talk about my past and say, you did this, and put some judgment and stank on that. There is so much freedom and liberation, let me tell you what, in being able to say, yes, you're absolutely right. I do have a past that seems quite dark, and it is quite dark in some places, and I have no problem discussing it, admitting it, and saying what was true. However, if it wasn't you, seems that that's not any of your business, boo, and I'm still not going to let you punish me no matter what you do. That's not how I operate, because that's not what the new age of the age of Aquarius is about, or New Earth is about. That's not what those frequencies are about, that we're still playing the old game of punishing people for the mistakes they've made, the choices they've made, the deep, dark, dirty, nasty that they've done, whatever level of transgression that we have committed. The sooner that we get really okay with it, the more power we have to really have our go bag, which is going to be very light and has angels' wings in it, and lightning bolts on our feet like Mercury or whatever he had. We become much lighter because we're not carrying around the no bag and the bad bag of everything that we've ever done or that was done to us. We have a lot of people in, at least American culture, and probably worldwide. However, I don't live in the world. I live in the United States, that we have a culture where bad things that have happened to us, and I mean bad things, not just bad things, but I mean bad things like horrible abuse and things like that get downplayed. People don't want to talk about it because it makes them uncomfortable. And the truth is that no, when we come from a background of trauma and we start normalizing that, or feeling like there's no place that we can safely go with that or talk about it without being downplayed, without it being made normal in the news, that it's okay, to grab body parts and, call yourself a leader of some kind. It's okay to, be assaulting gender identity issues. It's okay to say these things. It's okay. When we normalize that kind of thing, it takes people's power away for them. If they ever think that they were building their go bag and their spirituality, it kind of dumps back into that no bag by saying, well, I really don't have a place I can safely go with that. We do. It's a matter of not wasting time in those places where it isn't unsafe necessarily. It's just irrelevant and won't be heard. So find the group of people that story or that truth and that honesty can be embraced. And quite honestly, the more that we are able to do that in our own face, looking in our own mirror and seeing that this is the truth and the reality of me, maybe the less we'll need to be out here in 3D justifying, explaining, or declaring what we are to the rest of the world. Sometimes I find that people that are very vocal about the abuse they've suffered and the dark deeds that they have had committed against them really talk a lot about that and less about the deeds that they've actually committed, because it's easier to kind of put it out there and then play victim still. And that's really not what it's about. It's not about being the victim of anything anymore ever again, and it's not about blackmailing ourselves or letting anybody else do that by shaming us on any level. And the minute that we sense or see, feel or know that someone is going down that road, we can just cut it short and say, never mind, I'm in the wrong place, I was mistaken, I don't belong here, and off we go. And then be working with our own selves with our go bag, our go of the right know, as in KNOW, know, I know bag, that that's not where I belong. I need to come right back in here and meet with me and know that my truth and my reality is that dark things have happened to me, and I have done dark things, and I'm not going to allow anyone to tap me sideways or wrong to believe that there's something horrible or bad about me, that I either want to speak about it or that I want to heal that part of me. If I'm coming at it sideways though, and I walk away from some situation where I've been denied my truth and all of that, there's a whole lot of confusion and people who get bent on some things, and I often wonder, like, what is that about? That why are you so desperate to tell your story there? And really, 1111, that can be, not meaning to disgrace anyone at all or put shame on anyone. It's really more about, it's not necessary. If the abuser, they're rarely the ones that want to hear about the abuse that they've perpetrated. And so it's been more helpful for me to be honest about not what other people have done to me, despite the fact that, abuse that other people have perpetrated and committed, not many people want to hear about that stuff because it gets grungy. However, the more that I'm able to talk to myself about that and then be able to look at myself in the mirror and say, and these are the places where I made choices that I'm not proud of, that I really regret having made, and that if I could go back and change that, I absolutely would. And that's where I start getting really okay with that and say, I imagine that who do I really respect in this world? Who do I really think, I would have a hard time saying this in front of? And then as I'm standing in front of the mirror, or visualizing it, or whatever, however you can do it, this is just one of the techniques that I use, 1212, thank you, is to be able to look at myself and imagine someone that I truly respect, to be able to say, this is what I did, this is what I said to this person, this is what I did to this person, this is the way I went with this situation, whatever it is. Those places that would tap me wrong and make me feel really bad about myself, those are just hanging chads that somebody can snatch a hold of. For as long as I haven't resolved that and been able to get to the point, could I stand in front of this person who I respect and think the world of, could I say that in front of that person and still walk away feeling okay about myself? And if I can't, I still have work to do. And more importantly, can I look at myself in the mirror and be able to look at me and say that without anybody? And then can I look at my divine and say, am I truly divine? Do I believe in my purity enough to know that I'm loved no matter what I've chosen, no matter how awful it's been, no matter how great it's been? I don't get bonus points for having chosen really, really well any more than I get, awful points for choosing like hell. There is no personal thing about it. It's a matter of, as soon as I can believe and really dig in and totally engender myself to the notion that there's nothing that can take me away from the universal intelligence or the universal love or the pure loving frequency that is right here for me other than me. I can get in my own way, and what is getting in the way of me being able to look at me and say, I am a divine creature that not only deserves love, that is made of love and chose badly and still is coming back home regardless of the fact that I was playing prodigal son in a bad way, that I'm not proud of, that it doesn't matter as long as I'm headed back on my way back home. The prodigal son has some debt to repay, and he got some stuff to do, and I might have a stinky brother that's got a thing to say or two, and that's okay too, because it doesn't matter. It's me standing in front of the Father, if you will. It's me standing in front of my own self and my own connection to divine, and getting really okay with believing that I was out of line. How may I come back into line and receive all of the blessings and all of the true loving frequency that is here, that's around me, that I see, and that I can see in other people, and that I want so much, then how can I get there that I don't have to steal anybody else's, or feel ashamed that I don't have it, or feel ashamed that I, stole somebody else's at some time, or feel like I've got to, hurt someone because they're too happy, or they're, I don't have to go down any of those roads. However, none of that's a free pass. None of it's something that I just say, well, I just will it to be this way. I'll say this, affirmation, or I'll tithe, or I'll make a manifestation board, or I'll do a ritual, or I'll burn this candle, or whatever. I haven't seen anybody that's been truly successful long term in getting that work done. It's not a popular notion, and people really don't want to hear it. I've noticed that, and it's okay. However, it's really about what is it that takes me closer to knowing you, creator of all things, to the Father of all, to the creator of all, the Most High, however I identify that. And if I do not believe in any of that, then I'm probably not here listening anyway. That's okay. But if I do have a notion that there is a greater being, or a greater energy source, there's something that has pure love, then the more I really connect with that and truly believe that, I can let go of having any problem with being able to know that, every one of us stumbles on this planet. Every single one of us has karma that we need to work through. Every single one of us has chosen badly and in a dark way. It's a matter of how dark some people have chosen to play. And it definitely gets into different degrees of how we fix that and how long it takes to get it done. However, it doesn't help us one bit to be doing comparative study with anyone at any point for any reason. If we're on our journey and we're able to say with clarity, there's nothing that you can call me out on that I'm going to be so ashamed, so embarrassed, so anything, other than very flat truth and honest with, yep, I did that. And what can be the worst thing that would happen to me at that point? What would be the worst thing that I would experience? Is the humiliation? What would I be experiencing? Is the separation of, oh yeah, I let you buffalo me and bullshit me for a minute and believing that I don't deserve to be free of that karmic energy, and then cut it again, and I'm back to being free, and there goes my go bag. Is just, giving me my wings for one more layer of, you've made it out of the matrix. That's all it is this is mostly a mind game, and separating from people that are still willing to play the mind game with you, or get you to play the mind game with yourself, because they're busy playing a mind game with themselves. There's a lot of things out there that can really get very complicated, and it's quite unnecessary if we do the work within us to just say, look, I've chosen badly, okay, and here's where, and stop trying to find absolution with other people out there. When we find absolution with ourselves, I mean truly, when we find absolution and truly forgive ourselves, then we're not trying to, force our story on someone else, or get them to accept that they did something wrong or whatever. We can accept the fact that people may like me, people may not like me, and it's really about me. Do I like me? Can I put my head down at night and sleep okay with me? Because everywhere I go, there I go. I'm never going to be able to outrun me. And if I'm not my own best friend, wow, I lived a lot of years not being my own best friend. And I've not seen that work out very well where people weren't their own best friend and they were looking out here, because invariably a human being is going to disappoint you. We just disappoint ourselves. How could we not possibly be disappointing other people? And so, becoming my own best friend became the only thing I could do once I was left alone to do that. And though it was a harsh way for me to learn to take a, big old giant crash and burn and face down, in the dirt, man, you're taking humble pie bite, yum, 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 every day, every night. It was hard, and I really resented it for a while. And after a while, I realized that what's the worst thing that can happen here is that what's going to be exposed about me, the worst parts of me. Okay, well then what are those worst parts? Let me get okay with that. Let me look at that and see what secret could be said about me. And if things are being, lies are being spoken, and people are believing those lies, who do I care? Their opinion. Whose opinion do I care about that's saying those lies or is believing them? Then I've just found out that I'm my best friend, because I know that's bullshit, and I don't hang out with people who are full of shit. So that's just the way that is. And it means a lot of separation from a lot of people sometimes, and finding the soul tribe where we best align. And right now is a time, when there's a lot of things that are pulling apart and breaking apart and separating. And the more we go with that flow, we'll find that it's easier to be in community with people who will not want to punish us for our worst parts. And sometimes we do need me to be able to say, look, this is heavy on my heart. Can I speak to you about this and have you, not spit on me about this? Are you safe to do that? And set up those communications and those interactions where we can heal if that's what we need. However, I'm promising you that the minute you become your own best friend and really can get okay with that, more in your own skin, it would become less important to have to try to, receive some sort of something from someone else. Validation is very nice. But I'm telling you, when we receive validation from in here and we find it from divine, that validation is just a different kind. It has a superpower that becomes so obvious, so very obvious to me anyway, and to other people that, share a similar ideology and that I hear and listen to and talk to and can see it in their eyes, that once we've made that connection, there isn't anything. It's a superpower that I'm talking to that supersedes the ego and the human experience that I'm connecting to, and is reminding me that I'm a worthy human being and it doesn't matter what I've done. Then is it really going to be important that there's another human being that would want to drag me through the mud or want to punish me because they haven't found that source of energy yet, or they're not willing to do what it takes to get there? They're too afraid, they're too laden down with their burden and their no bag, and they're not building their go bag. My go bag, didn't come easily. However, it became much more easy to fill it and to really, really use it as such by unloading all of the people who wanted to punish me for everything I ever did that was bad and wrong. And okay, that's fine. What's the worst thing that we can find here? And after a while, it just became clear to me is it doesn't matter how many times I say I'm sorry, or how many times I admit to my failure, or any of that. If we're not moving on with this, these are people that are just looking to stay stuck in their own drama and their own trauma and stay with their no bag, which is very heavy. And if they have to break and leave and escape real quickly, it's not going to move very fast, because there's a lot of density in that energy. That's a lot of very dark energy that doesn't move very fast. And so, especially now when the vibration of the planet is continuing to move up, we have nothing but, energetic infusions and upgrades going on constantly. We're finding that people are getting slower, they're getting, more agitated, they're getting more triggered, and it's because it's time, rather than pointing the finger and saying, no, that's not mine. That what is mine, and if I'm triggered to a place, then that is mine to, absolutely deal with. However, if I'm not, then that's you, and I have to leave you to do that, because my go bag over here is light as a feather, light as a feather, because I'm not carrying any of that old stuff back there. It doesn't mean that I don't have amends to make. It doesn't mean that I don't need to say I'm sorry necessarily, and it doesn't mean that I don't have karma I have to pay. It means that I don't carry all of the dead bodies with me. I don't carry all the luggage of everything that I've assigned as being horrible. It means I don't carry it with me while I'm trying to ascend. There's no way that we can ascend as quickly when we're trying to drag all of the dense energy. That defeats the whole purpose, and it defies what it is to actually be ascending. Ascending means we move into lighter, higher vibrational energy, and we can't do that if we're carrying around the density